Hey folks, welcome to the next class in the series of Basics to Advance in the topic percentages. So in the last class we did a few basic problems. We ran through all the fundamental theory parts over there. So we're going to incorporate all those ideas in this class, solve a few questions and build better foundations. So without any further ado, let's look into the questions and then I'll start solving. So as usual, the same template. I'm going to step away for a second and then we solve it. We'll have a look at the question. If the price of cinema tickets increases by 25%, by what percentage should a person reduce the number of tickets they buy so that their total expenditure remains unchanged? So the idea of inverse proportionality, we understand it. When a particular value goes up, the other one comes down, keeping one of those variables constant. So for example, my expenditure is equal to price into consumption, right? That's what we say. So E is equal to P into C. So when my expenditure is constant, when price goes up, consumption comes down, and vice versa. When consumption goes up, price has to come down to ensure that our expenditure is maintained constant. In this question, it says my expenditure, my ticket prices has gone up by 25%. 25%, I can call it 1/4 increase, or my prices have become 5/4 of my original value. So what happens to my consumption? So when one goes up, the other one comes down. So they have to be inversely proportional. Again, to come back to E, my cost has to be 4/5C, so that they get cancelled. Again, P into C, you will get E. That's all. So it's a 4/5 of my consumption. 4/5 of my consumption, you can think about it as C minus 1/5C. So cost consumption, C is your actual consumption. There's a reduction of 1/5 of it. So consumption, the number of tickets bought, reduces by 20%. Simple idea. Nothing fancy, nothing tricky here. When one value goes up, the other value comes down. Now you can beautifully use the idea 1 by n plus 1. What is it? Whenever there is a 1 by n increase, there will always be a 1 by n plus 1 decrease. The general formula, we say whenever there is a by n increase, there is always an a by n plus a decrease. What is the idea behind it? The moment I see there is an increase of 25%, my mind would automatically say 25%, I can write it as 1/4 increase. So when one value goes up by 1/4, the corresponding value comes down by 1/4 plus 1, which is 1/5 decrease, which is a 20% decrease. A beautiful property that comes handy any given day. Every time you deal with inverse proportionality, remember this: a by n increase will always correspond to an a by n plus a decrease whenever two items are inversely proportional. Nice technique that comes handy whenever you solve questions on time and work, time, speed, distance, profit and loss. So put it in some corner. This will always come handy, right? We'll hop on to the next question now. I'm going to step aside. Now let's solve this. This question, it says the price of cooking gas has increased by 20% since last month, and the family is willing to spend 10% more than before on cooking gas per month. By what percentage should the family reduce its consumption? Now here, once again, when price goes up, consumption comes down for a constant value. But we notice that price goes up by some percentage, your expenditure also goes up by some percentage. They are willing to spend a little more, which means they can still be reduction. There can be a reduction in the consumption still, but they are not that inversely proportional straight away. There is some other variable plugging in will do that. So here in this case, my expenditure will be price into consumption as usual. But the moment I see there is a 20% increase, so I'm going to say E is equal to PC. The moment I say there is a 20% increase in my price, 20% increase, we can write it as 6 by 5 times of P into my consumption. I'm not sure what it is. Let's say my expenditure will be 10% more, which is 11/10 of my expenditure, 11 by 10E. Now there is going to be some X into C here. I don't know what that X is. What is going to be the value there? We'll have to figure out. So I can take out P into C here. PC into 6x by 5 is equal to 11 by 10E. Now PC I can rewrite it as E. So 6x by 5 into E is equal to 11 by 10E. E gets cancelled. So X is equal to 55 by 60. I can write it as 11/12. So my X value is 11/12, or my consumption comes down by 1/12. What is 1/12? It's going to be 8.33% decrease. So ensure, if you are struggling to do it this way, plug in values in each case and then find that value and then look for what percentage decrease this is. Rather, this is a much convenient way to work for. Hang on and get it done. The third one says, in a fitness club, 30% of all members are left-handed. Half of all members are women. If 20% of the women are left-handed, what percentage of right-handed are men? So we are dividing an entire group. We are distinguishing a group based on their dexterity and the gender. So left-handed, right-handed, men and women. So we're looking at two cases here. I want to probably look into this in a table, plug everything in a table, and from there we'll probably be able to do it much better. So let's say left-handed, right-handed, and then total. Men, women. Now I'm going to say the total people in the society club, let's call them 100. 30% of all members are left-handed. So 30% of all the members are left-handed. Out of 100, 30% is 30. So the remaining all must be right-handers, which is 70. And half of all members are women. So half of the entire total happens to be women, which means women are 50, men are also 50. If 20% of the women are left-handed, I have 50 women, 20%. So 10% is 5. So 20% becomes 10. 20% of the women are left-handed, which means 40 of them would be right-handed. Now, if I look at the right-handers, out of 70 right-handers, 40 of them are women, which means 30 of them are men. From here, 20 left-handed men we have. We have gotten the entire table. The question says, what percentage of right-handed members are men? Out of the right-handers, entire right-handers, what percentage are men? I happen to have 70 right-handers overall. 30 of them are men. So I can say 30 out of entire 70 are right-handed. That will be 3/7 of 100. 1/7 is 14.28. So 3/7 would be 42.85%. Nice and easy, beautiful question. Just plug in one value. You can do this with a variable as well, but I prefer doing it with numbers. That makes our job a lot more easier, right? Move on to the next question. I'm going to step aside for a second. And now we solve. A football team has played 30 matches so far and won 60% of them. If they play the remaining matches and win 85% of them, their overall win percentage becomes 70%. If they instead win 95% of the remaining matches, then their total number of matches they win in the tournament will be. So we happen to have they play 30 matches played and then win percentage and then wins. Out of 30 matches, they have won 60%. 10% is 3, 60% is 18. Now they play X more matches, we don't know what X is. And they win 85% of them. So let me say this is 85%. So this will become 0.85x. The overall win percentage becomes 70. We are looking at 70% overall. So total matches played is 30 plus x. Overall win percentage is 70%. Overall wins I can write it as 18 plus 0.585x. The question is the total number of matches they win in the tournament. We need to find the total number of matches 1. Now out of 30 plus x, 70% of that is this value. So we can straight away write 70% of 30 plus x is equal to 18 plus 0.85x. Or you can write this as 70 by 100 into 30 plus x is equal to 18 plus 85 by 100x. Now 70 by 100 into 30. So this will become 21. I'm going to write it over here. So 21 plus this will become 70x by 100 is equal to 18 plus 85x by 100. So this goes here and that comes over here. You'll have 15x by 100 is equal to 3. So x is equal to 300 by 15. X is equal to 20 matches. So they have played 20 more matches. So x is equal to 20. The question is the total number of matches they win in the tournament. What is the total number of matches won? They have played 50 matches, out of which they have won 70% into 70 by 100. So they have won 35 wins. They have won 35 matches and that's our answer. Nice and easy. The moment you know how to put down your values, you start everything in the right moment and everything will fall in place. Right? We'll move on to one more question. And now we solve. Now, corporate assessment test, Arjun scored 40% and Neha scored 70% of the maximum marks. Arjun scored 20 marks fewer than Rohan, while Neha scored 10 marks more than Rohan. How many marks did Rohan score? So we are looking at a mark scale here. So this is 0%, this is 100%. This is 0 marks, this is your maximum marks. Arjun scored 40%. So I'm going to put Arjun here at 40%. Neha scored 70%. So I'm going to put Neha somewhere here. Neha 70%. Now there is one more guy called Rohan. What did Rohan? Arjun scored 20 marks fewer than Rohan, which means Rohan is sitting somewhere here and this gap is 20. While Neha scored 10 marks more than Rohan. Neha scored 10 marks more than Rohan. Is over here. How many marks did Rohan score? So what is Rohan's score? We have to find it out. I can think about it as equations and solve it, or straight away plug in our understanding and then solve for it. So I'm going to first write equations. In this case, I can say Rohan is equal to or I can say, yeah, Rohan is equal to 40% of my total plus 20. Because what is Rohan? Take 40% of the total and then add 20 to it. That's Rohan. Whereas in the second case, you will have Neha is equal, Rohan is equal to 70% of total minus 10. Neha, whatever Neha value is, reduce 10 from it, you get Rohan. What is Neha? 70% of the total. From here, we can clearly say R is equal to 0.4 T plus 10, 20. R is equal to 0.7 T minus 10. 40%, I am writing it as 0.4 T. That's all. So let's solve for this. Minus, minus, minus. RR gets cancelled. You will have 0.3 T minus 30 equals to 0. Or 3T minus 300 equals to 0. 3T is equal to 300. T is equal to 100. So the total marks in the exam is 100. Instead of doing it with the equations, you can think about it as 40, between 40% and 70% of the total, the gap is 30. So you can straight away say 30% of the total is 30. That's intuition. But before you start doing it intuitively start writing equations and then solve for it. So if I plug in this value over here, the question is, how many marks did Rohan score? So 40% Arjun would have gotten 40. Neha would have gotten 70. So 40 plus 20, Rohan is 60. 70 minus 10, Rohan is still 60. So Rohan has scored 60 marks. And that will be our answer. Nice and easy. Start writing equations. At some point, you can start solving with your intuition. Right? So we'll stop here. In case if you have understood the questions, have a look at this question, solve for it, see whether you get your answer. If you get your answer, drop your answers in the comment box. And don't forget to join the groups, and you can also post your answers there. If you are struggling to solve this question, we'll discuss this question in the group. If you have understood all these questions, we are done for the day. Best wishes.